The starting point of a heating system is a well-designed insulated house. The thermal mass in the house is where your battery is for your heat energy battery. Like a lot of people are thinking about solar PV. You use your house or your hot water cylinder as your first battery storage. 70%, 60 to 70% of your power bill goes into hot water heating, space heating, or cooling. So if you can utilize that, you sort it. Cost effective to run because we use a hot water heat pump. Similar to the heat pump you have at home, potentially you have one, but we're heating the water rather than heating the air. So water carries 3,000 more times of energy than air. I hate cold, but what we feel is not just the air. It's actually the people around me. So I'm not so cold now, probably because of you guys. If you go into a room, they feel really, really hot. Open the window, the room gets really cold quickly because the room is relying on just the air. And what does hot air do? Hot air rises. So if you have a high ceiling, I don't know about your design, if you have a high ceiling, all that hot air is going to hit your roof first before that hits you. Even if you have a floor unit, it's never going to hit your floor, let alone hit your bathroom toilet seat, which is actually a very important part of comfort. People don't feel that, but if you have a gradually evenly heated home, those are the things you would appreciate because you don't think about heating that much. You don't go into the room, turn on that little heater, creates all that cranking noise, all that fan goes on. The idea of underfloor heating to be on Superhome tour is because you don't really see them in any home. No real estate agent, no home building company would actually talk about them. The misconception is they're expensive. Expensive to install, expensive to run. How much would an underfloor heating heat system cost? Guess. 150 square meter. Guess.
$70,000.
Huh?
$70,000.
$70,000?
30.
$30,000? $30,000? 20.
20.
Yeah. So I don't know about your house design. I can't guarantee that rate. But what you think is a ducted central system, ducted heating, ducted, the air one, you probably put a couple grand more. It will do underfloor. The reality is the work that goes into underfloor is a bit more, but it's not ridiculously more expensive than standard whole home heating, but completely different experience. How much would underfloor heating system cost to run? There was a gentleman asking me.
Depends how it's powered.
Yeah, exactly. We do only heat pump base, hot water heat pump base. We don't do diesel. There's other ways to heat underfloor water. Basically, heating water, you can countryside to be diesel, gas, wood burner potentially. But the ethos we have here is we encourage hot water heat pump because you can then power that with solar PV. And it's cost effective to run on the basis of low maintenance. You don't go around putting wood fire. You don't have to do annual maintenance. You do have to do a bit of maintenance on heat pump, but it's not a lot of work. And then these days, the fully heated home, we have one centralized control. This house maybe have a couple because different stories. One centralized control on your phone app. People like to have them on the phone. The first month, they like to adjust it all the time. 22, 21, oh, that room needs to be higher. And 3 months later, okay, just leave it. When I go away, I switch it on, turn it up, turn it down. But most of the times, people don't adjust it. Why? Because it's cost effective to run. Therefore, there's no point to turn it on up and down. People like to do multiple controls in every room. The basis is, it costs so much to run. That thing is going on all the time. I'm going to turn that down. It's going to save me money. It's like the fridge, if you keep turning it off and on, it doesn't really save you money. It's actually worse. But if it doesn't cost a lot to run, then what's the point of doing multiple controls? So that's a different concept than most of the heating in New Zealand. Yeah, I like to hear.
Or like, for example, in bedroom, usually people want colder temperature.
Cooler, yes. The underfloor heating would normally have a manifold that sits in somewhere in the cupboard, you can potentially adjust that circuit down. So you reduce the flow in the water, which would do that if you want to. However, most of the time we don't, because the main living area tend to be hard flooring. Bedrooms tend to be carpeted. Carpet is naturally going to be more insulated than hard flooring because it doesn't allow heat out as well. You know, some people like wool floor. You can have wool carpet, but you're going to remember that's going to let heat out slower. So naturally the bedroom will be maybe 2-3 degrees cooler. It's fine. It's better than not heated bedroom. It's a big difference to walk into this space than walk into a room with underfloor heating. 13-degree room versus 18-degree room, completely different. If this house was, I was gonna say, most of the house you walk into without a heat pump going, it would be like this. Inside and outside's the same. Sometimes worse inside, colder inside than outside. It doesn't happen in the other country. But New Zealand house, the building code is low. That we agree on that. So that's why I started. The main thing is to get the house structure right, to get it well insulated. We don't do that. Any heating provider would provide your heating system. How much that costs to run depends on how long you run it, how much heat you want. So we believe hydronic heating gives you very constant, even heat all the time and doesn't cost a lot to run. So that's where the benefit comes in. You know, who doesn't want to go home in winter just warm? Every room is warm. Why do I want to walk into a cold bathroom or cold bedroom? Because you're just not gonna use that room. Why did you build it in the first place? Yeah. So if you haven't been to those houses, do go feel it because it's quite different talking that warm room than here. You can't really feel that. Yeah. And then people will always say, oh, it's nice. The floor feels nice. But actually everything around you is warm. Relatively, bedroom will feel cooler. I have people call me to say, oh, my bedroom is not warm. Then I go there. It's actually warm. It's not as warm as the living area. It's 19 degrees. I tell them, 19 degrees is warm for most of the house. But different people are different. So, some people like to keep the house 18. Some people like to keep it 22. Some husband like to keep it 18. Some wife like to keep it 22. That's not a decision I make. It's just you have to find the comfortable temperature you like. Once you get through a whole year, you then know your house, your temperature, may be different from your last one. Because every house built, the orientation, the solar gain is all very different. We kind of need to figure out different personality, different lifestyle. Some people have night rate. They then run the heat pump in the evening. Some people have solar. They run during the day. If you don't have me, I'll go all the time. 24/7, 21 degree. Because it's not about when you run the system. The heating system, the heat pump only bring more heat to top up the heat leaving the house. So if you drop a degree or two, the heat pump kicks in. It doesn't work that hard. If you let the house cool down to 16, then come trying to bring it up in a really cold day. I want that to go very fast. It doesn't work that way. It's sort of a climate control kind of concept. Yes?
If the house is well insulated.
Yes.
And you have underfloor heating.
Yeah.
Do you know how much costs the air circulation because you need to bring in fresh air?
How much does
the fresh air circulation cost? Because if it's airtight house,
yes,
usually you need to, exchange the
ventilation system. Are you asking the cost of ventilation system? My understanding is about 10 to 15 grand, depends on the house. Ventilation system, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's fresh air in, fresh air out. So nowadays, a good, well-insulated house means really airtight. Old leaky home, there's energy leaking everywhere as well as moisture. So you don't have condensation that much. But a well-insulated, well-built house, condensation is always an issue. Not because of the house, but because the people live in it. I think I heard the number 7 liters of water every day generated, just shower, cooking, breathing. It's not from the house itself. But if you have a well-insulated house, you have a warm home, you don't want to open the window, what happens? All that moisture goes into your building. So a heat recovery ventilation would help that 24/7. But what it does is takes the colder air in, the old air, warm air will get transfer the energy into the cold air, so that comes back being fresh. I think one thing about ventilation, it's gonna be helpful for heating, but air doesn't actually carry a lot of energy. If this room is heated by underfloor, I open the door. I'm quite happy. I open the door for an hour. I close it. 5 minutes later, it will be the same, because everything in the room will come out with heat. If you have a high wall heat pump or some sort of ducted, you open that for an hour, then you close it. The room will be cold, because nothing stays in the room. No furniture actually holds that heat. So the actual thermal mass is what we want. Some people may not have a concrete floor. I'm not sure where you're building. This house, if they go with a pile, maybe easier, but they will lose the thermal mass. Everything is kind of you have a decision to make. Concrete may be expensive to install, but concrete is a really good thermal mass for the house. What that does is, if you have a closed up house, actually works both seasons. Summer, the house won't be as hot because the thermal mass takes that, absorbs it. Outside, the weather goes like that. Inside goes like that. And you're only topping up that much. But if you don't have that thermal mass, passive house standards people, if you have a well-insulated house, you don't have a place to hold that heat, the temperature change can still be quite big. Yeah, so that's the concept about air. Any other questions? I can go on for a long time, but I don't really, yep.
So the hydronic floor
Heating, yeah.
heating is controlled by thermostat. Is it the thermostat of the water that's controlled, or is it the thermostat of the air? 'Cause
We-
that's what you feel, isn't it?
We have a wall-mounted thermostat. It normally sits in the cooler side of the house that sort of interprets of our room temperature, but not in the sunny side, because if sun comes out, air temperature shoots up, but there's no energy. You don't really want the heating system to stop. You want it to the cool, stable side of it.
So if you want the house to be at, say, 20 degrees,
Yeah.
what would the underfloor
The
heating
water
be?
temperature be?
What would the water temperature on the floor be? The same, or
No. The water normally sits around 30 degree.
30 degrees?
Yeah, 30 degree. Then, because it's about 100 mil in the slab, the surface of the floor might be 23, but another 2 degree down, the room will be 21. So that's how you feel. The air temperature about 21. But I was gonna say, the thermostat itself actually has a floor probe. What we find is, again, passive house, very, very well insulated, tiny home as well. You can't find a stable spot. When the sun comes in, the temperature shoots up really quickly. So then we can't really rely on the air temperature. We then use a floor probe.
Based on the
Yeah,
temperature of the floor.
yeah. So the floor will be more stable, but it could be done both ways. Depends on the house. Yeah.